The sun blazed over the desolate wasteland, casting long shadows across the cracked earth as two figures stood facing each other, their auras flickering like flames. Gohan adjusted his stance, his muscles tense, his lavender gi fluttering in the wind. Across from him, Vegeta smirked, his arms crossed, his usual arrogance undiminished. "You've grown stronger, boy," Vegeta admitted, though his tone still carried a challenge. "But let's see if you've truly surpassed the Prince of all Saiyans." Gohan clenched his fists, his mind flashing back to the years of ridicule, being called Wild Bee Gohan, the weakling who couldn't live up to his potential. No more. He had trained relentlessly, pushing beyond his limits, unlocking power that even Whis had acknowledged as rivaling that of a destroyer's apprentice. "I won't hold back, Vegeta," Gohan warned, his voice steady. "This time, I'll prove I'm not the same fighter I was before." Without another word, Vegeta lunged, his fist aimed squarely at Gohan's face. The impact sent a shockwave through the air, but Gohan was already gone, teleporting behind Vegeta with instant transmission. His elbow slammed into Vegeta's spine, sending him skidding across the ground. Vegeta growled, flipping midair and retaliating with a barrage of ki blasts. Gohan weaved between them effortlessly, his movements fluid, his reflexes honed to perfection. Vegeta's eyes narrowed. "Not bad," he muttered before vanishing in a burst of speed. His knee connected with Gohan's ribs, but Gohan twisted, catching Vegeta's leg and hurling him skyward. Before Vegeta could recover, Gohan appeared above him, driving both fists downward. The impact cratered the earth, dust exploding into the air. Yet Vegeta emerged unscathed, his aura now a blazing blue as he powered up to Super Saiyan Blue. Gohan exhaled, his own energy surging, his hair spiking silver, his pupils vanishing as he tapped into his ultimate form. The ground trembled beneath them as their auras clashed, the sheer pressure sending rocks floating into the air. Vegeta grinned. "Now we're talking." He dashed forward, delivering a flurry of punches, each strike faster than light. Gohan parried, countering with precise jabs of his own, their fists colliding in bursts of energy. Vegeta feinted left, then suddenly pivoted, his leg sweeping toward Gohan's head. Gohan ducked, retaliating with a spinning kick that sent Vegeta reeling. Before Vegeta could stabilize, Gohan unleashed a Kamehameha at point-blank range. The blue beam engulfed Vegeta, carving a molten trench through the wasteland. Yet, as the smoke cleared, Vegeta stood, his armor singed but his smirk intact. "Is that all?" Gohan gritted his teeth. He had hoped to end this quickly, but Vegeta was as relentless as ever. The Saiyan Prince clenched his fists, his aura flaring violently. "My turn." In an instant, he was inches from Gohan, his fist slamming into Gohan's gut. The force was staggering. Gohan coughed blood, his body folding from the blow. Before he could recover, Vegeta grabbed him by the throat and hurled him into a mountainside. The rock face shattered, debris raining down as Gohan struggled to rise. But he wasn't done. Not yet. Gohan pushed himself up, wiping blood from his lip. "You're strong, Vegeta," he admitted. "But so am I." His aura erupted anew, silver energy crackling around him as he tapped into a power even Whis had warned him to use sparingly. Vegeta's eyes widened slightly. This wasn't just Ultimate Gohan anymore. This was something else entirely. Gohan vanished. Vegeta barely had time to react before a fist connected with his jaw, sending him spiraling through the air. Gohan pursued, his speed unmatched, his strikes precise. A knee to the ribs, an elbow to the back, each blow landed with devastating force. Vegeta roared, retaliating with a wild haymaker, but Gohan caught his wrist and twisted, flipping Vegeta onto his back. The battle was far from over, but one thing was clear: Gohan was no longer the weakling they had mocked. He was a warrior, a force to be reckoned with, and Vegeta would have to push himself beyond his limits if he hoped to keep up. The Prince of all Saiyans wouldn't accept defeat so easily. As he rose to his feet, his aura burned brighter than ever. The real fight was just beginning. The battlefield trembled as Gohan and Vegeta clashed, their auras flaring like twin suns. The once timid scholar had shed his weakness, his punches now carried the weight of a warrior who'd reclaimed his destiny. Vegeta grinned, blood trickling from his lip. "Not bad, boy. Maybe you've finally earned the right to face me." Gohan's eyes burned with resolve. "This isn't just about pride anymore, Vegeta. Something's wrong with you, I can feel it." Before Vegeta could retort, the sky split open. A vortex of dark energy swirled above them, and out stepped Tapo, his once noble frame now twisted by the aura of a destroyer. His eyes gleamed with cold judgment. "Your petty squabbles endanger the cosmos. The gods of destruction have decreed this planet's erasure." Gohan's breath caught. Tapo? But you fought with us. Vegeta scoffed. TCH. Another fool drunk on power. Tapo raised his hand, a sphere of annihilation forming in his palm. Justice is absolute. If you will not yield, you will perish. The energy blast rocketed toward them. Gohan lunged, deflecting it with a Kamehameha, but the shockwave sent him skidding back. Vegeta dodged, then retaliated with a barrage of Big Bang attacks, but Tapo swatted them aside like gnats. The ground ruptured under the force, sending molten rock spewing into the air. Gohan wiped his brow. We can't fight him like this. We need a plan. Vegeta snarled. Plan? I'll crush him with my own hands. He powered up to Ultra Ego, his muscles swelling with violent energy. He vanished, reappearing behind Tapo with a devastating elbow strike, but Tapo anticipated it, catching his arm and hurling him into a mountainside. Rubble cascaded as Vegeta roared, bursting free in a storm of ki. Gohan seized the opening, charging forward with a flurry of strikes. He wove around Tapo's counters, using the terrain to his advantage, kicking off boulders, using debris as makeshift projectiles. Tapo shattered them effortlessly, but Gohan wasn't aiming to hurt. He was buying time. Vegeta, now. The Saiyan Prince emerged from the smoke, his fist wreathed in purple energy. Galit gun. Hellfire. The blast seared through the air, forcing Tapo to cross his arms in defense. The explosion lit up the horizon. But when the smoke cleared, Tapo stood unharmed, his destroyer energy flaring. Pathetic. He lunged, his fist connecting with Gohan's gut, sending him crashing through a canyon. Vegeta intercepted the next strike, trading blows at blinding speed, but Tapo's raw power was overwhelming. With a grunt, Vegeta was slammed into the earth, a crater forming beneath him. Gohan staggered to his feet, his mind racing. We're not strong enough alone. But together? He reached out with his ki, sensing Vegeta's erratic energy. Vegeta, listen to me. We have to combine our attacks, no pride, no rivalry. Just survival. Vegeta spat blood, glaring. You think I need your help? I think we'll die if we don't. Tapo loomed above them, gathering energy for a final strike. Your end has come. Gohan and Vegeta exchanged a glance, a silent understanding. As Tapo unleashed his attack, Gohan unleashed a Masenko while Vegeta fired a final flash. The beams spiraled together, clashing against Tapo's energy in a cataclysmic explosion. The force sent shockwaves across the planet, cracking the very crust beneath them. When the dust settled, Tapo was kneeling, his armor scorched. But his eyes still burned with defiance. You resist fate itself. Gohan panted, his body aching. No. We defy it. Vegeta smirked, though his legs shook. Don't get cocky, boy. This isn't over. Above them, the vortex pulsed again. A new presence emerged, whispering, laughing. A figure draped in shadows stepped forward, his golden eyes gleaming. How entertaining. Gohan's blood ran cold. You. The battle had just begun. The battle raged across the ruined landscape, the sky split by the violent clash of ki blasts. Gohan's fists met Vegeta's with earth-shattering force, each impact sending shockwaves through the battlefield. No longer the hesitant warrior he once was, Gohan fought with a ferocity that matched his father's legendary spirit. His power, once mocked as Wild Piccolo Gohan, now rivaled that of a destroyer's apprentice. But Vegeta, ever the relentless Saiyan Prince, refused to yield. You've improved, boy, Vegeta sneered, wiping blood from his lip. But you're still no match for a true elite. Gohan's muscles burned as he pushed back against Vegeta's assault. He could feel the strain of maintaining his new form, a radiant, silver-tinged aura that crackled like unstable energy. It was a power he had only begun to master, one Whis had hinted might one day rival even a god of destructions. But mastering it came at a cost. Every second drained his stamina, and Vegeta was exploiting that weakness with brutal precision. Then came the twist, one that shattered Gohan's focus. A transmission crackled through his earpiece, Bulma's voice frantic. Gohan. It's a trap. Frieza's forces just ambushed the lookout. They're after the Dragon Balls. Gohan's blood ran cold. The real battle wasn't here, it was happening elsewhere, and he'd been lured away. Vegeta's smirk widened. Took you long enough to figure it out. Gohan's fists trembled. You're working with Frieza? Vegeta scoffed. Don't be a fool. I needed you distracted. Frieza's a cockroach, but even cockroaches can be useful. The revelation hit like a physical blow. This wasn't just a spar, it was a diversion, and Gohan had fallen for it. His mind reeled. Piccolo, Dend, his family, they were all in danger. Desperation fueled his next move. With a roar, Gohan unleashed a blinding Kamehameha, forcing Vegeta back just long enough to create distance. He had to get to the lookout. But Vegeta wasn't done. Running away? Pathetic. The prince lunged, his fist slamming into Gohan's ribs. Bones cracked. Gohan gasped, but he couldn't afford to fall. Not now. Thinking fast, he feinted left, then teleported behind Vegeta with instant transmission. A desperate gamble. He drove his elbow into Vegeta's spine, sending him crashing into the ground. Before Vegeta could recover, Gohan shot skyward, streaking toward the lookout. But Vegeta's laughter followed him. You won't make it in time. The lookout was already in chaos. Frieza's soldiers swarmed the sacred grounds, their weapons trained on Piccolo, who stood battered but defiant. Den was cornered, the Dragon Balls just out of reach. Gohan arrived in a flash of light, his aura flaring like a supernova. Get away from them. His voice carried the weight of a warrior pushed to his limit. Frieza himself descended, his golden form gleaming with smug superiority. Ah, the prodigal son arrives. How touching. Gohan's fists clenched. He was outnumbered, exhausted, but he had no choice. This was it, the moment that would define him. Not as a scholar, not as a reluctant hero, but as a warrior who would protect what mattered most. The final clash began. Gohan moved like a storm, his strikes a blur. Soldiers fell like wheat before a scythe. But Frieza was waiting. Their fists collided, the shockwave shattering the lookout's tiles. Gohan's arms shook. He was running on fumes. Frieza laughed. Is this all you have? Then, Piccolo's voice, strained but steady. Gohan. Now. A green energy blade sliced through the air, severing Frieza's tail. The tyrant screamed. Gohan didn't hesitate. Channeling every last ounce of power, he drove his fist through Frieza's chest. The tyrant's eyes widened in disbelief before he exploded in a burst of light. Silence. Gohan collapsed to his knees, his body spent. But the victory was hollow. The lookout was in ruins. The Dragon Balls, scattered. And Vegeta's words echoed in his mind. This wasn't over. As the dust settled, Gohan made a vow. No more hesitation. No more weakness. The next time he faced Vegeta, or anyone else who threatened his world, he would be ready. The battle had changed him. And the war was just beginning. The battlefield trembled as Gohan and Vegeta faced off, their auras flaring like twin suns. The air crackled with energy, the weight of their power distorting the very ground beneath them. Gohan, no longer the hesitant warrior he once was, clenched his fists, his muscles coiling like springs ready to unleash devastation. Across from him, Vegeta smirked, his pride burning hotter than ever. Let's see if you've truly shed that weakling Gohan title, he taunted, his voice dripping with challenge. Without warning, Gohan exploded forward, his fist aimed at Vegeta's jaw. The Prince of Scions barely twisted aside, the shockwave from the mist blow carving a canyon into the earth behind him. Vegeta retaliated with a vicious knee to Gohan's ribs, but the half Saiyan rolled with the impact, flipping midair to deliver a spinning kick that sent Vegeta skidding back. Dust swirled as they reassessed, their eyes locked in a silent understanding. This fight would push them both to the brink. Vegeta vanished in a blur, reappearing above Gohan with a hammer fist aimed at his skull. Gohan crossed his arms to block, but the force drove him knee-deep into the ground. Gritting his teeth, he channeled his energy into his legs and erupted upward, headbutting Vegeta's chin. The Saiyan Prince staggered, but before Gohan could press the advantage, Vegeta unleashed a point-blank Gallic gun. The violet beam seared the air, but Gohan twisted at the last second, the energy grazing his shoulder as he countered with a full-powered Masenko. The beams collided, the resulting explosion hurling both warriors apart. Landing in a crouch, Gohan felt his body thrumming with power. His muscles expanded slightly, his aura flaring gold and crimson, a fusion of his ultimate form and the raw aggression of his Saiyan blood. Across the field, Vegeta wiped blood from his lip and grinned. Not bad. But let's see how you handle this. His body surged with dark energy as he tapped into his Ultra Ego form, his power swelling exponentially. The two charged again, their fists meeting in a shockwave that shattered the landscape. Gohan ducked under a wild haymaker and drove his elbow into Vegeta's gut, but the Saiyan Prince twisted, catching Gohan's arm and hurling him into a distant cliff. Before the dust settled, Gohan burst free, his fist glowing with ki as he launched a rapid-fire barrage of energy blasts. Vegeta weaved through them, closing the distance in an instant, his knee slamming into Gohan's sternum. Gohan coughed blood but retaliated with a point-blank Kamehameha, the blue wave engulfing Vegeta and carving a molten trench across the battlefield. Smoke billowed as Vegeta emerged, his armor scorched but his smirk intact. "You're strong, I'll give you that. But strength alone won't beat me." He raised his hand, and a sphere of crackling purple energy formed, a perfected Hakai. Gohan's eyes widened, but he didn't falter. Instead, he focused, drawing on every ounce of his training, his father's teachings, and his own unyielding will. His aura erupted anew, taking on an almost divine shimmer as he met Vegeta's challenge head-on. The Hakai sphere hurtled toward him, but Gohan didn't dodge. He roared, his hands glowing gold as he caught the destruction energy, his muscles straining against its annihilating force. The ground beneath him disintegrated, but he held firm, his own power surging to counteract it. With a final, deafening cry, he hurled the Hakai skyward, where it detonated in a cataclysmic burst. Vegeta's eyes flashed with approval. "Now we're talking." He lunged, and the two clashed again, their fists moving faster than sight, each blow shaking the heavens. The battle raged on, neither willing to yield, their power escalating beyond anything they'd ever achieved. As the dust cleared from their latest exchange, both stood battered but unbroken, their auras flickering like dying stars. Gohan panted, his body screaming in protest, but his resolve was unshaken. "I won't lose. Not again." His fists tightened, his energy surging one last time as he prepared his ultimate attack. Vegeta mirrored him, his own power coalescing into a final, decisive strike. The moment hung in the air, then they charged, the world itself seeming to hold its breath as their fists met in a collision that would decide everything. The battlefield trembled as Gohan and Vegeta clashed once more, their fists colliding with enough force to crack the earth beneath them. The air itself seemed to shriek under the pressure of their energy, the golden and violet auras flickering like dying stars. Gohan's eyes burned with resolve, no longer the hesitant warrior once mockingly called Wild Gohan by his peers. This was a fighter who had clawed his way past his limits, his power now rivaling that of a destroyer's apprentice. Vegeta, ever the relentless prince, sneered through bloodied lips, his pride refusing to let him acknowledge the boy's growth, even as every strike from Gohan rattled his bones. Their previous exchanges had left the landscape in ruins, craters marking the spots where they had traded blows capable of leveling mountains. Now, as the dust settled, Vegeta wiped his mouth and spat. "You've improved, boy. But don't think for a second that's enough to surpass me." His aura flared violently, the dark violet energy of Ultra Ego surging around him, feeding off his pain and defiance. Gohan didn't flinch. Instead, his own golden aura intensified, his hybrid Saiyan blood singing with untapped potential. They lunged at the same instant, fists blurring. Gohan twisted midair, avoiding a brutal elbow strike from Vegeta and countering with a knee to the ribs. The impact sent Vegeta skidding back, but he retaliated instantly, firing a point-blank ki blast that Gohan barely deflected. The explosion hurled them apart, but neither stayed down. Gohan's hands glowed as he formed a Kamehameha, the blue-white energy crackling with newfound refinement. Vegeta smirked and raised his palm. Final flash. The two beams collided, the resulting shockwave tearing apart the sky, the sheer force threatening to rip the planet asunder. For a moment, it seemed like a stalemate, until Gohan roared, his power flaring beyond its previous peak. The Kamehameha surged forward, overwhelming Vegeta's blast and engulfing him in a devastating explosion. The ground quaked as smoke billowed into the air. Gohan panted, his muscles screaming from exertion, but he knew better than to assume victory. Sure enough, Vegeta emerged from the smoke, his armor shattered, his body battered, but his grin wider than ever. "That's it, boy. That's the power I wanted to see." The fight escalated beyond mere physicality. Every exchange carried the weight of their legacies, Vegeta's unyielding pride as a Saiyan prince, Gohan's struggle to step out of his father's shadow and become his own warrior. Their fists clashed again, each blow resonating like thunder. Gohan ducked under a savage punch and drove his elbow into Vegeta's gut, but the prince twisted, grabbing Gohan's arm and hurling him into the ground. Before Gohan could recover, Vegeta was above him, slamming both fists down. Gohan barely blocked, the force cratering the earth beneath him. Then, in that moment of desperation, something awakened. Gohan's vision sharpened, time itself seeming to slow. He saw Vegeta's next move before it happened, the telltale shift in his stance, the tightening of his fist. Gohan reacted instantly, catching Vegeta's wrist mid-strike and twisting, flipping the prince over his shoulder. Before Vegeta could recover, Gohan's palm connected with his chest, a pulse of energy sending him flying. Vegeta crashed through a cliffside, coughing up blood, but his eyes gleamed with something beyond frustration, respect. "TCH. So this is what you've been hiding." Gohan approached, his breathing steady despite the exhaustion gnawing at him. No more holding back, Vegeta. Let's end this, Vegeta chuckled darkly, pushing himself up. Fine. But don't expect mercy. Their final clash was a blur of motion, fists and energy colliding in a crescendo of power. Gohan feinted left, then twisted, his fist slamming into Vegeta's jaw. The prince staggered, just enough for Gohan to gather every ounce of his remaining strength. His hand glowed crimson, a new technique forged in the heat of battle. Mystic impact. The attack struck true, erupting in a blinding explosion of energy. When the light faded, Vegeta knelt on one knee, his body trembling. Gohan stood before him, his own legs barely supporting him. For a long moment, silence reigned. Then, with a grunt, Vegeta smirked. Guess I underestimated you, boy. He collapsed onto his back, defeated but not broken. The aftermath was quiet. The universe itself seemed to exhale, the balance of power subtly shifted. Whis, observing from afar, smiled knowingly. It seems we have a new contender worthy of a destroyer's mantle. Beerus, for once, didn't argue. Gohan extended a hand to Vegeta. The prince hesitated, then took it, allowing himself to be pulled up. Don't get cocky, Vegeta muttered, though there was no venom in his words. Gohan grinned. Wouldn't dream of it. The battle was over. But the future, now irrevocably changed, had only just begun.